I couldn't stop staring at my face and looking for pictures of him to compare and just getting my mind blown, freaking out. This can't be real.
Hello, you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I am your host, Lily, and I found out I was an NPE through an ancestry DNA test that changed my life forever. NPE is a term that stands for Not Parent Expected or Non-Paternal Event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. And welcome to episode 165. And I just noticed if you're an Apple Podcast user, I believe they just got rid of episode numbers. So most of our listeners, at least a few thousand a week, are Apple Podcast listeners, so that might make it a little confusing when you're trying to find a specific episode. I'm sure there's still some way to do it, I haven't figured out how yet. So in the future, if you want to refer someone to your podcast or your episode number, if you've been a guest on the show, you might just have to give the title of the podcast and maybe the date it was released. I don't know. I'll have to figure this out soon, how to do that. For instance, today, the episode is called Shardae's Story, and it's episode 165. But you might have to search for it just typing in Shardae's Story. We'll see how that goes since Apple made that change. And we also have Father's Day coming up. It will be, let's see here, mid-June. It's a Sunday. I know a lot of people in the NPE community have some challenges around Mother's Day and Father's Day. I'm already thinking about it. It can be a tough day for NPEs, or it can be a great day if you have a wonderful father figure in your life. I have lots of dads in my life, but not in my life, if that makes sense. So Father's Day is a tricky one for me as well as Mother's Day. I have my birth certificate father, who it's the sort of relationship where we see each other at birthday parties, but we don't really talk about my NPE. It's just kind of swept under the rug. He's very uncomfortable with it. And so we don't ever really get to talk about it. And that doesn't feel healthy, but I go with it. And then I have my biological father, who I spoke with twice 4 years ago, and that was it. It's currently in rejection status, I would call it. I have my stepdad, who I loved dearly as a child, and is currently in estrangement with both my stepdad and my mom. Not by choice, of course. It was absolutely the last resort. With family secrets, there's a lot of toxicity, and that's where our relationship is now. And then, of course, I have my father-in-law as well. So a lot of dads in my life, but not in my life. And I know other people have challenging and complex situations similar to that. And I also know from speaking with so many NPEs that some of you have beautiful relationships with your birth certificate father. That is your dad and always will be. And some of you are forming new relationships with your biological father. All just very challenging and complex. That's how I'll put it. But going into Father's Day here in a couple weeks, I get it. I really have to thank a few people at the beginning of this episode. I am on year 4 of doing this podcast, and I have been paying for all my subscription services along the way for my domains, my editing, the recording and hosting of this podcast. I just started a Patreon account last month, and I have had a handful of wonderful people be a supporter of the podcast. Thank you so much to Mari Soul, William Cook, and Sean. They just became devotees to the podcast through the Patreon account, which is patreon.com/NPE stories. Thank you so much. This is getting me closer to getting my clean voice technology I want to get, and it's really helping me with my subscription fees so that I can continue to record and edit and publish new episodes every week. Thank you so much. And now we are going to get into listening to the story for this week. We're listening to an NPE share her story. Today I am speaking with Shardae. Hi, Shardae.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing good. It's my day off.
Oh, it's your day off. Okay. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for taking the time aside and doing this with me today.
Mm-hmm.
It is nerve-wracking to talk about this at times. I get it.
Right. You know.
And you have shared your story before, right? So let's direct people to the DNA Surprises podcast. What was the name? Do you remember the name of your episode?
Shardae's story, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing.
So that'd be part 1, probably. So 3 months after I found out I did that.
I will put a link into that part 1 as well below. And we're going to find out where you're at today. But for our listeners, I would like for you to start with your family of origin. Start there, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, let's see. I grew up mostly with my mom. My parents were divorced early, like before I was 2, just before I was 2. So it was my mom, single mom. I'm the oldest of my 2 parents and the only of my 2 parents that I was aware of. Then my mom had 2 other children. So I have a younger sister through my mom and a younger brother. And then on my dad's side, or BCF, he quickly remarried after they divorced and they had 2 kids. So I have another younger sister through him and a younger brother. It was pretty dysfunctional, a lot of just fighting between my mom and him, visitations, stepmom. I'm in the middle. There was, I don't remember very much, but I guess you'd say parental alienation. My mom's, that could be a whole nother podcast, I think, but it was a lot and it always has been. So, but now I'm an adult and I have my own kids and, I put that away and moved on with life. And, I'm not too close with my siblings on my dad's side, but we do family functions and it was 2 very different households. My mom was a single mom and, kind of struggling financially. She had another baby daddy, I guess you'd say, my other sibling's dad, who was, the child support. It's like we as kids were very aware of child support, which we shouldn't have been aware of that, but it was clear that their dad was late and my dad paid on time and showed up when he said he would. And those kids, I mean, I feel bad for them. So I, was to feel grateful that my dad actually was showing up for visitations to pick me up and whatnot. I don't know if that's important, but there's that. I guess that's my family of origin that I can think. Getting the Ancestry DNA kit during COVID because I'm bored at home and I had finally just got unemployment coming in. So it's like you can't go anywhere and you got money. And I've always been curious about my native heritage on my mom's side. because I believe her grandmother was full Indian or from one of the reservations out in Oklahoma or something. So I've always been just curious about that. I think a lot of people are. So I took that 2020. Let's see, it was March is when I got the kit. And when I got that back, I look at the results and I just see different percents. And I don't know, nothing really showing the roots for the native heritage. So I was a little disappointed in that, put it away. And then months later, I'd get like an email notification. You've got, new hints or new, family, whatever. So I'd click in and check on it. And I think I had a couple messages from distant cousins. And I was like, oh, what's this, And no idea who these people are, but they're distant and they're probably have a hobby in ancestry or family trees, which I'm not into it, but they'd ask questions and I'd try to help them out. Didn't think much of it until I put it away again. So we're getting into like 2021 and I had a close match like that popped up and I was like, oh, who's this? And they I didn't know the centimorgan numbers. I didn't understand that at first. So I'm trying to do my own research, kind of fascinated who this person is. They don't have a picture. It's just a name. So I don't recognize the name. I see that the number of shared DNA, the centimorgans, is higher than my known cousins that I grew up with that are taking ancestry. So that piqued my interest a lot. I'm like, who is this? I was thinking that maybe my dad, because my mom liked to inform me that he was not faithful and that's part of the reason they divorced or whatever. So I was like, maybe my dad has a secret kid out there. But after research, I find out that those centimorgans were not for like a half sibling. It was more, it matched up with like a first cousin or a half first cousin. So I messaged the match and didn't hear anything until they finally wrote back, and it'd be, kind of just little vague here and there messages. We weren't really figuring anything out. And then she said, well, my mom has two brothers from Oregon, and she said their names, and one of those names I recognized as my mom's cousin that I knew in childhood, and he has a daughter that I, grew up with. A lot of my cousins and family lived locally, and we'd all have family events and functions together, even with like second cousins. So pretty close grown up. So I'm just trying to figure this match out. I end up asking my mom if she knew this name because I didn't know even what side of the family this match was on. And she didn't know. I'm kind of just unemployed at this time. I guess I could get into that. Things have been really stressful since I lost my job with COVID, and I'm home with the kids. And as life is starting to get back to quote unquote normalcy for the world, I'm still trying to rebuild everything that I had structured around my kids and daycare. And that's really hard to do. Also, trying to find a new job. I'm a truck driver, so the schedules for that are not quite family friendly. So anyway, I've been trying to apply for jobs at this time. I had an interview set up, asked my mom about the match who said that her brother, and I'm thinking her brother, okay, well, I know that my mom's cousin had two siblings. And so my mom's cousin is, his mother is my mother's sister, if that makes sense. So that's her first cousin that this lady says is her brother. But I don't know that he has any other sisters other than the one that I know, and he had another brother from my great aunt. So this was interesting to me. My mom said she was going to stop by one afternoon. And when she stopped by, it's a Sunday, and it's my last kind of alone time before I go pick up my kids from their dads. And I'm sitting down, and she's just like, well, I think I figured out how you're related to that match. And I'm like, oh yeah, thinking I'm going to hear some scandal, because I had tried to piece it together as if, okay, this cousin, maybe one of my great grandparents or grandparents had an affair, and this is a sibling no one knows about, or, I'm doing all the thinking and piecing myself, and expecting she's going to tell me something about someone else. So the first thing she says is there was a party, and I'm just sitting there listening, and she said everybody was drinking. Last thing she remembers is being with her cousin and waking up on the beach alone. And it just seemed like something might have happened. So she asked her cousin, if something had happened. He said no. And I'm like waiting. Before she had said that she had asked her cousin if something happened, I'm just thinking, okay, when are you gonna, tell me how I'm related to this cousin? Like, get on with the story. Who cares about the beach? Like, how am I related to this person? What are you trying to tell me? I'm not catching what she's saying here, because I can't picture her being intimate with her cousin. I'm just not going there in my mind. She's making it clear, that there was a lot of drinking, and she doesn't remember. And I'm like, what? I'm just quiet. She said that the cousin, is likely your dad. And I don't remember if she said it like that, but she had to kind of, explain it a little more clearly, because I wasn't getting it. And then I'm like, what? Really? I'm just like, because she's starting to get all emotional, and like she's scared to tell me, and just knowing her, she kind of, I don't know how to phrase it, but she's becoming, like, I hate the word, but the victim here. Like, she didn't know something happened, and I'm cautious about that. I don't know if something happened where the cousin took advantage of her. I don't know. I'm just kind of absorbing it all at this moment, and trying to not lose it, because she's losing it. And I just kind of wanted her to leave so that I could just process what she just said. And I got to pick up my kids in a couple hours. And yeah, I'm like, huh? What the heck just happened here? And so immediately I'm going, because I'm friends with people, all these people involved, because they're already family, you know? This is just insane to me. And anybody listening, I'm sure, is just like, what? Yeah. And looking in the mirror, what the heck? And how did no one notice this? Who did anybody know this and didn't tell me? All these thoughts. But I couldn't stop like staring at my face and looking for pictures of him to compare, and just getting my mind blown, like freaking out. This can't be real. Is this real? And so I don't know, that day was quite a blur. I had to drive to another town to go get my kids, and I don't even remember that really. And that whole week, really, I was not okay, and I couldn't tell anybody. Meanwhile, my kids, it's March, April. My kids they're both in sports, softball, baseball. We got practices, we got coaches. I got this interview days after finding this out. Let's just say I didn't get that job. And I'm at the point where my bank is empty. I already have a therapist that I had started seeing a couple years back due to just burnout and a terrible relationship thing and just trying to get my mind. That therapist specializes in CBT, but this is a whole new level of therapy that I need, I think. And I made an appointment with that therapist because I needed to, it eats at you like to the core, trying to figure out how to just not think about it constantly. Kids, they're hungry, they need dinner. It's like your whole world has just stopped and you're trying to gather all these pieces that are everywhere. That's what it felt like. So, complete shock, yeah, but kind of had to set it aside. That's what my therapist told me to do because I'm already kind of in a crisis that I need to get my job. I need to not be evicted and all these things. It's very scary. And, oh, yeah, I don't know. I just needed to breathe. Luckily, my kids go to their dads on the weekends, so I was able to have some alone time. But even then, I like to karaoke on the weekends. So, and there's a place I go, they have kind of a fire pit where everybody kind of chills and talks. And so I was trying to test the waters and be like, guess what I just found out, and just see how people react. And oh my, there's different reactions. People are just like, the typical, I hate to say it because it's so common, oh, well, he's your dad. He's, still your dad. But it's like my relationship with my dad growing up was hard, and it's still hard, if not harder now, because of I have my own kids and his just inability to acknowledge emotions at all, um, you know, and just judgmental or just very black or white kind of thinking. And I'm more of a creative. I was in school growing up. I had the ADHD. I had to be in special reading. But now that I've been doing some work for the last few years, that ADHD could just be trauma related from my hectic childhood. But sadly, parents trying to help their kid focus in school aren't going to tell the therapist, that maybe they have issues with their co-parenting and all that, It's, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So what do? My mom actually was a very big support for me. I felt like I didn't know what to feel about her with all of this, but I wanted to believe her, but I also didn't want to believe that bio dad would do something like that, knowing him from childhood. That's not his character at all. So it was just really confusing. My mom's literally almost calling me every day or every week at least to check in, which was helpful, which is uncommon, I find out, for the moms. But I think that since she was the one who told me, she had time to kind of gather herself and gather her story, I guess, and get brave and come to me versus me, blindsiding her and her not having any way to think about that, what she's going to say or respond or her shame, So that, I think, made a huge difference in how this played out. So let's see. I'm like, I want her to tell Bio Dad what I had found out so that he knows that I know what's going on. Because I'm like in a desperate need to connect. But I'm terrified, and with the baseball, I got to see my birth certificate dad at these games every week, and I avoided it as long as I could. But sitting there, I don't know. I'm used to kind of putting on a mask anyway with him, but he's all he knows how to talk about is like the weather and other family members, and anyway, it's difficult. And over time, I'm still not unemployed. Um, and so mom decides she texts Bio Dad and she says, "Hey, we need to talk. Can you give me a call?" And so they call, or she called him. I wasn't there, but from what she said is she told him, and his first reaction was, "Oh, wow." And I'm not sure exactly what else was said, but he told her that he needed to talk to his wife and that he'd get back. So she told me that, and we're waiting. Like, I swear, every minute of the day, especially being unemployed, excuse me, and the kids are, I think they're in school. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, they're back in school, so I'm home alone all day, which I guess was good because I could try and research. But when you have an overactive brain like me, overthinking everything, overanalyzing everything, I am just like borderline gonna lose it. I don't know. And so I spent a lot of time at the river. That's my happy place. I bumped up my therapy for every other week, which wasn't enough in the first month. Even the first couple months, I needed like a weekly therapy session, if not a couple times, because it's such a roller coaster of emotions. Like, I can be totally fine and forget this is even happening, and then I cannot hold back tears. And I'm not an easy crier. I be hiding in the bathroom, and my kids have no idea what's going on, but they know something's up. So finally, Bio Dad is still not responding, and I'm desperate now. I need to talk to him. So I got this book actually the year before, after I had an episode with my birth certificate dad freaking out and causing a situation that I was not okay with in front of my kids. And because he doesn't know how to communicate. So I got a book called Nonviolent Communication. It's by Marshall B. Rosenberg. And that book, I can't remember where I heard about it, but I got it and I read it, and I was trying to practice and learn the steps, and I'm like, my dad needs this book. So that after that incident, it was the day before Father's Day that year before, I got that book for my birth certificate dad. Never heard a word about it. If you read it, I don't doubt it. But so that's why I had that book. And I'm like, maybe I should use that book to reach out to BioDad, because it's kind of like how to resolve conflicts, but also communicate in a way that, you can find a resolution to something. So I needed a resolution. I needed to connect. I needed him to want to connect. How do I do that? So I just had pages I had written, but I narrowed it down to like a paragraph and just said, hey, and I reached out to him on Facebook and I said, I'm aware, like that you're likely my bio dad. And this is, kind of explained how I felt. and would he be willing to connect with me, because I really need to connect. And not long after that, same day, within the hour, I think, he had responded, yes, like, I'm aware that I'm your bio dad, and I've been ashamed and afraid of what my family might think, but here's my number. We could plan a time to talk sometime. And his wife, he had told. And so a couple weeks later, we had scheduled to talk on the phone, and wow, yeah, that was really, really cool to talk to him. He was just as nervous as I was. I felt better after talking to him. He didn't explain details of how this all happened, but he was accountable for it. He admitted that he kind of thought this day would come because he suspected that I might be his. And that was like, whoa, another mind blow, And that's kind of why he disappeared or moved away when I was about 8 years old. He's like, you really need to talk to my wife. She has an almost identical story. And I'm like, what? How? No, this is not a normal thing. So he said, well, he didn't tell me her story. So I was like, I got to talk to her. So I had called her, and she told me that she had found out that her dad was also not her dad, like 5 years before. And she was in the process of all of that and gonna go meet him. And so it's like we're on the same kind of path here. And after talking with her, we had planned I told her I wanted to come visit. And by this time, I had talked to Biodad in May, or I found out in March, reached out April, May, we had our phone call. June is a big month, Father's Day month. It's also my birthday month. And baseball and softball are wrapping up. So a lot coming to a close and beginning. Birth certificate dad wanted to have all his kids together up at his cabin for Father's Day. Well, that isn't likely. His kids aren't really, I don't know, we don't do things together. We're kind of not that close. So his fantasy of going up to the cabin, that's a nice thought, but that's just not realistic, and terrified me because I would probably be the only kid that would go up there of his, people pleasing kind of the way that I am, to get dad's approval. I would probably end up being the only one that went up, and that scared the heck out of me. So I'm just like, let's just go out to eat or something. So we ended up doing that. And my plan was, after I have Father's Day with him, the following day I was heading up to go meet Bio Dad. And he lives about 2 hours away. And I plan to stay for that week there. And at the end of the week on Friday was my birthday. So it's just a big week. Okay, so I guess we'll get into meeting Biodad, which isn't the first time we've met, but obviously the first time meeting, knowing what we know. And wow, it's just like a movie to me in my mind. I'm like, this is happening. Oh my gosh, what's it going to be like? But I get there, I get out of the car, and they're both, him and his wife, outside, just like I'm a neighbor, or like, hey, what's going on? They're very chill, very not, they're just themselves. They're authentic more so than the black and white. They're just welcoming, and it could be, they're nervous too. And we're all nervous, it's scary. And that evening, I guess, they had planned, or maybe it was the next night, but all their neighbors, it's kind of a small little community that they live in, which is cool, on a beautiful lake. And all the neighbors, they had a planned barbecue to kind of welcome me, his daughter, which he introduced me as his daughter to everyone, which was crazy to me. And everyone that saw me was just staring at my face, because no joke, I look just like him, like the female version of him, even though he has another daughter. And I don't think I mentioned his other daughter I knew growing up. She's 3 months younger than me. 3 months. And I think he had told, I'm all over the place, but I think he had told his daughter and the mother, or his mother, so my great aunt, about all of this before I came up. So they knew. And from that, according to his wife, his daughter was upset, but overall he said that it went better than he expected. So then I came up and visited, and it went awesome. It was kind of like being in a dream. Like I'm almost watching it from afar, but I'm in it. I didn't really like all the focus on me, but it was nice. I mean, it was welcoming and great. So after that, I was kind of on cloud 9 and wanted to visit again as soon as possible. And being unemployed still, I was trying to take advantage of all this time. So I had visited again. It's summer. We go boating. And then I talk about wanting to bring up my kids, but I needed to tell my kids. So I told them, and their reaction wasn't like, they didn't get shocked or anything. They're just like, oh, interesting. I didn't give them all the details, obviously, but I just said, well, I found out, I guess I have a different dad. You have 2 papas now, bigger family, trying to make light of it. And would you like to meet him? And so we went up there, and Bio Dad was just loving it. He was so excited, wanting to meet them, which was cool. Interested in what they're doing. It was almost like, he was like trying to be more fatherly, or maybe it's easier because they're kids versus the way, there's more interest in them than there is in me, I guess. I don't know. I'm the grown up now, but whatever, I'll take it, and they loved it. So after that meeting, though, I was having a hard time watching them there with him, thinking about my birth certificate dad, and just feeling really bad. Like, what's like I'm cheating on him, or, like betraying him in a way. So I had to plan. I knew I needed to tell him, because this is just so heavy, and seeing him is so hard. And I want to keep building a relationship with Biodad here. And I don't like secrets. This isn't going to be a secret. I don't want to be a secret, so July, I used that book again, The Nonviolent Communication, to plan out what I was going to say, how I'm going to say it to Biodad, or sorry, I get them confused, birth certificate dad. I told him I had something I needed to talk to him about, and I could sense that he was thinking, because I'm unemployed, struggling, and he hasn't really asked about that either. So I kind of felt abandoned a little bit. In the past couple of years, he's always helped me throughout my life financially. And this kind of thing was really hard. But anyway, I expected he thought it would be about me needing help with some financial stuff or something. But we met up at a Chinese restaurant, his place near his house, and immediately I just knew this was not going to be where I told him. There's a few people there, and I just kind of assessing the scene, and I'm like, and he's real anxious to know what's going on. And I just told him, nah, we can't do it here. Let's just go to your house, and I can tell you. And so we had a couple drinks, and then since I wasn't going to tell him there, we had one more drink. And at this point, I'm like, ooh, I don't want to drink too much more. But anyway, we get there and I tell him, and his immediate reaction was just denial, kind of like my last words of saying was just, so and so is my bio dad. And he goes, no, he's not. No, he's not. Shardae. He is, no, that stuff, he's just denial. And I'm usually straight faced. I don't get emotional around him, but I just started getting real emotional once he said, well, you're my daughter and I'm your dad. And that's when, it was just like, I needed him. I needed to have a dad really bad at that moment. It's been so hard. And then it was kind of sinking into him, maybe like, oh, well, it's like being adopted. And he kind of suspected. And, but once my son was born, he knew that I was his daughter for sure, because the way my son walks, kind of, to him, he thinks he's sort of pigeon-toed, but I don't think my son's just a giant kid and knobby knees. I don't know. But he was, the stages of grief, the trying to, what is it? Like he was doing all of them right then. Denial, the I'm not too happy with your mom right now, the bargaining with trying to find reasons, and he's still in denial, or he's just, it's so uncomfortable for him to this day. So moving forward, I felt amazing after that. I felt relieved. His response was more loving than I expected at all. Like I could breathe a little better. I soon got a job. I think just the flow of things went slowly but smoother than a lot of people. So yeah, I'm starting this job like we're September now. And that was a rough start. Just scary, a whole new identity in that as well. Meanwhile, just this event can trigger at any moment. And it's hard because without people understanding what you've gone through and you're getting triggered or breaking down or you're not able to focus. And as a truck driver, that's important to focus. And just with any job you're starting, there's a lot that you're trying to learn and do. And it was just hard. And it's still hard, but it's better. Fast forward the holidays, that was hard. We didn't really do anything. There was no plans to see Biodad or anything during the holidays, but February comes around, so a few months ago, I'm getting a call from Biodad randomly one morning, and I'm working, and I'm like, finally, because he never calls, he never texts. His wife would check in, but he never did. I would send him messages in the beginning because I was just wanting to say hi, but I didn't know what else to say. And he would respond, but only when I initiated stuff. So this time, him calling me, I was like, finally, maybe his wife said something to him to check in on me sometime. So I answered it immediately, and he was like kind of saying, oh, hey, what are you doing? And I could tell kind of in the tone of his voice that something was up. And he just let it out and said, well, Graham has, like, his mother died that morning. And his mother, I knew as my great aunt. My mom was very close with her, and she knew about me. And I kept getting updates from Biodad's wife, that she was coming around. And eventually, after the holidays, wanted to connect and meet up with me, as her granddaughter, because we never knew. And it's like I've known her my whole life, but not as my grandmother. And my grandmother that I knew passed in 2005, and I hadn't had any grandmother since. So it's just, that news was really hard, because I was looking forward to meeting up with her and new sister, um, you know. So that wasn't good news. And now I'm like thinking of the funeral. Oh my gosh, how's that going to go? All the family, and there could be drinking, and yeah. And then one day I get another call from Bio Dad, and I'm like, is he checking in? What's going on? I don't know. Nope. He wanted to let me know that he's going to ask my mom to not go to the memorial because he's just afraid of drama, and not saying that she would cause drama, but other family knowing of this, that could be drinking. We just don't want anything to happen. We want it to be about his mother. And so, I was like, that's going to be tough. She's not going to like that. But okay, And now I'm thinking in my mind, I'm terrified of drama happening. Like, oh no. And I'm telling my mom in the best way that I could that it's important for me to connect with bio family. Some of them it's the first time meeting. And if there's drama, like this could affect the rest of my life and how it plays out. So please don't come. And she agreed. It wasn't easy, but she agreed at first and then changed her mind. And I was just like, what? Have you told him, Bio Dad, that you've changed your mind, that you are coming? Because you can at least give him that respect or a heads up. And she's like, no, your grandpa said I shouldn't. And I'm just getting really upset. And I'm now connecting with my mom's other daughter. So my sister through my mom, who's been more supportive lately, and just really been there for me now that there's kind of this conflict with my mom. And she was agreeing with me that, that mom shouldn't go, to respect that. And I don't know, I was done talking to my mom, and the funeral's coming around, and I'm terrified, and I'm bringing my kids. And then Bio Dad's wife calls. She was asking if it was okay if my name was on like the program as her granddaughter. And I am like, because I kind of thought of that. I'm like, am I going to be included as the granddaughter, or how does that work? But I didn't want to say anything. And I just love that she asked, but I was also not sure if but deep down I knew that, yeah, I would love to be on there. I am her granddaughter, but like that would be at least my last kind of connection to her in that way, even though she passed before we could have that. That was almost like this event is a coming out for a family that doesn't know, and if they really read that program, they're going to see my name. Who knows? That could cause drama. I don't know, but I thought it was special and cool that was happening. Like the first thing with my name on paper as a part of that bio family. Long story short, it went smoothly, the whole thing. I see I'm reuniting with people, well, with new half sister. Bio Dad already had met my kids. My kids remember, and we're happy to see him and the other cousins that they had met when they were there. And I didn't speak to my mom at all. She was at her own table. Anyway, it was just awkward in that sense. But it went smoothly, and I, towards the end, felt bad, getting so upset about it. But I had my reasons to be scared and be upset. And she was just kind of stuck in her emotions and how she felt. And that bothered me, but there's nothing I can do about it. We can't control what other people do. And my therapist tried to help me see that. And I had to let it go and just show up as me and not associate with anybody that's going to be dramatic or drama. So we got through the funeral, went good. I tried to reach out, or I text my mom an apology, even though my sister said not to. But I did, because that's just me. And I don't like conflict, and I like to talk it out and move forward. Not a word, not a word. My son's birthday was not long ago, and not a word. She didn't show up. She dropped a gift off at my sister's. And so last weekend, Mother's Day weekend, I'm not liking the energy, not liking it. So I think I referred back to that book again and tried to just, what can I say to her? I'm thinking of her. It's Mother's Day. Isn't she thinking of me? I sent her a message and just said, hey, it's been 2 months since I've heard from you. It's Mother's Day and you're my mom. Like, these are the facts, right? And a mom's and daughter's relationship's kind of important. And I just want you to know I'm thinking about you on Mother's Day. And that's all. I didn't say how I was feeling or that I was upset or anything, just trying to break the ice here. And she did. She responded. And one of the first things she said was, well, yes, you hurt me, though, and went on about how she felt and her emotions and all of that. And then at the end, just said, well, I hope you have a beautiful day with your kids. And I just said, thank you. She's still in it, in her spiral or whatever. And things may not ever be the same. We'll see. I don't know. I can't help her with that. She's got to figure it out. And I hope she can finally see where I'm coming from with that. But that's up until today. But something else that's been going on, how I had my DNA. I took 23andMe as well because BioDad's on there, and that definitely confirmed that we are, he's my dad. He matched me at like 57.28%. I think that's because I have extra maternal with, I don't know, paternal, however that is. It's been a little difficult to kind of figure out matches because of that. And I have a match on my heritage. I plugged in my data on my heritage, and I'll just kind of skim through that discovery. But this person could be, the prediction of him was first cousin at 12.5% shared DNA. That seems a bit much for first cousin. Or a half uncle or a great uncle. Well, he's in his 40s, so I don't think he's a great uncle. Could be cousin, but now I'm thinking, okay, here we go again. His last name doesn't match anything in my tree, both trees or anything. And I'm like, maybe he was adopted. Like, who is this? Who is this? I was hesitant to reach out, but I sent a message on there. Didn't get a response, so I found him on Facebook, wrote him on there, and I just asked, hey, would you be willing to help me figure out how we're related? And he turns out his bio, he just found out because he knew he was adopted, which I suspected. His bio dad, or he found his mother, and she's since passed, but 5 years ago she he found out who his mother was, and she told him who his bio dad was, and his bio dad is my bio dad's father. So my bio dad has a half brother that he does not know about. And the story behind his growing up a little bit is they fled the state where him and his mom lived because his bio dad had a whole nother family um, that he had with other kids. And once my bio dad's mother found that out, they were gone. They moved to Oregon and never looked back. So that was, the end of him and his relationship with his dad, I think. I'm not sure. So it sounds like his dad got around, has another kid that no one knows. And up until right now, I talked through text, I messaged Biodad, I think yesterday, wanting to come visit because his wife's birthday is this Friday. And I want to tell him about this new half brother. Because another thought I had was, since his daughter was kind of having a hard time with all of this, obviously, but the fact that he was married to her mother when this went down, and my mom was married. She's having a hard time, but getting better. But maybe him finding out that he has this new half sibling from an affair, maybe he can see where she's coming from. Like, this is a difficult thing, and I don't know. They're at a kind of a crossroad thing right now, which sucks because I wanted all of us to hang out and be one big happy family. But it's going to take time for sure. But that's wild. And this new half sibling, I guess I'm the first person that he's talked to or connected with other than the mom, his bio mom. So he's on, this discovery journey that's beginning, and I guess I might be the one that's going to help him do that, hopefully. So, yeah.
You have quite a few NPEs in your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we did a part 3, I wonder what would happen with.
Oh no! And the story unfolds and continues.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
It can. This is our life now. There's
right.
People change. People get feelings hurt. They go into different stages of being in our lives, supporting us, and then all of a sudden they're out in their own spirals. And yeah, they're never-ending stories. This is just where you're at today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shardae, thank you so much. I know we're going to keep your email address private, but if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can email npestories@gmail.com, and I'll pass along any questions or supportive comments.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Shardae, so much for sharing where you're at today, anyway. And I really appreciate you taking the time on your day off to share your NPE story.
Thank you.
These stories are here for us to identify with. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come heal with us.